Hello everybody, so I had a few clips ready for this video and I went to edit them and found out that my microphone wasn't connected properly and the audio sounded robotic like this. Since I'm going to be doing quite a bit of grinding and so yeah, not exactly something I could upload anymore as is. So I decided while these clips play in the background, I would go over my current updated thoughts about the Truracs Mule Deer and what I hope for the release of them, along with some fixes that are coming with this patch and my thoughts about EW potentially making a fishing game in the future. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is, there was a few things that I had pointed out to me by you guys actually when I uploaded the video showcasing the Truracs Mule Deer. And one of them that I saw a few times was the tip-to-tip spread on the racks was a little bit too close, and I actually completely agree with that. After going back and kind of looking at them again, it does seem like they definitely have the tip-to-tip spread a bit too close on a few of the racks. There's a couple that are pretty wide, which is nice, but I definitely agree that some of them need to maybe be looked at again, especially with the larger rack that they showed off towards the end. That one definitely had a little bit too close tips, and I'm kind of curious as to what the full of that rack is actually going to look like, since that particular antler had such a tight curl. If there's an actual one that has an even rack that looks like that, then it's going to be extremely close and definitely won't be the most realistic mule deer. So hopefully that is just a fluke and a one-time thing and they aren't all going to look like that. But if they do, then they might need to tweak them a little bit. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, since I had quite a few people ask me about this during the past week or so. Well, I guess the Truracs Mule Deer video has only been out for a few days, but you guys get what I mean. Ever since it came out, I've had people asking me why there were so many level 5s and what that meant, and basically from what I've been able to determine based off of feedback from other creators in the community and feedback from a lot of you guys too, is that the levels weren't actually what the true level of the animal was. It was just a visual bug. They were actually level 4s most likely, and for some reason they were just saying 5, so that's probably going to be fixed by the time it releases, I would imagine, so no need to worry about that. Everything should be fine there. So technically we never actually saw a level 5, except for maybe the last one could have been half of the level 5 rack, but most likely it was still level 4. So that brings another thought to me, and that is, what is the big rack gonna look like? Because if that was just the small rack or potentially the large level 4 rack, then what is the big one gonna look like? Because as you guys have seen with the red deer, they added, I think, 4 different racks for level 9s. So if they do the same for the mule deer, then we're going to have some pretty impressive looking deer, I would imagine. Especially with the way that the legacy ones looked. I mean, you guys saw the big rack level 5 for the legacies. It's just absolutely insane looking. I'm kind of hoping that, well, obviously I don't want it to look like that one because it's not very realistic, but something of that size would be pretty cool to get. Something that's got quite a bit of points, maybe even a couple non-typical points coming off of it would be kind of cool, considering we did see that a few of the level 4 racks that they showed off had some stickers poking out the side, which is really cool, and I kind of hope they do that with some more racks in the future. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was that they actually did fix the female Piebald Rocky Mountain elk, because for a while they all looked like male models without antlers, which was not realistic at all. And it was a bug that honestly prevented me from ever mounting those, just because there was no point. They didn't show up correctly in the lodge even. Like, a lot of them ended up looking common when you put them in the lodge, so they were just bugged like crazy. And that has been fixed. They actually showed one off in the Expansive Worlds live stream, so it's good to know that those are not completely screwed up like they were. But yeah, nice little thing that they added in there that was much needed. But another thing is that the Bighorn were fixed. I mentioned this in my first video about the Truracs Mule Deer, and I just wanted to real quickly mention it again because a few people were still asking me. So basically, they fixed the mass on the large Bighorn sheep. So our level 5s are going to be looking a lot thicker than they were before, which is going to be pretty awesome considering they already looked crazy. They were just a little bit too thin. So now we're not only going to have very hard curling level 5s, but we're also going to have some very thick ones too, which is going to be absolutely awesome. Very, very much needed, and I'm honestly looking forward to hunting some Bighorn again now. Now, there's a couple more things that I wanted to talk about, and this next one is that the turkeys are going to be strutting a lot more, which is something that a lot of people had requested, because before, the only time that I'd ever really seen them strut was anytime they got near decoys. They didn't really do it just on their own, or even when you'd call them in, so it just didn't make too much sense, in my opinion, that they only did it around decoys. But hopefully that's going to be a lot cooler now that they can strut without having to be near decoys. Alright, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about is that there's a pretty high chance, it looks like, that Expansive Worlds might be making a fishing game, because they put out a survey that had quite a few questions about what we would like in a fishing game if they ever made one. And they gave kind of a scenario of if they were to put out a fishing game right now that had around 30 species and was around the $30 to $40 price tag, I believe is what it said. I'm not 100% on that, but I do believe that is what I remember reading. But so basically, long story short, there's a good chance they're going to be making a fishing game, and a lot of people have been asking me what I think about them creating a fishing game and if I think they'll be able to do a good job on it. And I really feel like if they manage to make an open world fishing game with an open world similar to Call the Wild, where you can traverse a very large map, then I think it could be a hit, honestly. If they have good physics with the line and all of the different tackle and good water physics, which, as we've seen with Call the Wild, the water isn't the greatest in the world, but hopefully if they do a fishing game, they'll be able to improve on the water, because I really think they could compete if they put a lot of time into making sure they didn't make the same type of mistakes that Fishing Planet or other fishing games have made. Because now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Fishing Planet. I think it's an amazing game, but my problem with it always was it heavily gates new players. It makes it so you really have to grind a lot just to progress, and for a lot of people that can really turn them off from even giving the game a second shot, because it takes hours upon hours just to progress a couple levels for some people, especially if you're new and don't really know all the hotspots and things like that. So I just feel like they need to stick away from the DLC and stuff like that, early on at least, if they do decide to make a fishing game, because that's one of the things that really pushed a lot of people away from Fishing Planet, was the fact that you're time gated on fast forwarding time, and you're limited on tackle pretty heavily unless you spend money early on. So it really is a game that, it's such a good game, but it is very intimidating to new players because of how much you have to put into it in order to actually get anywhere. Like, I'm only level 42 and I've played the game for like, I believe, a couple hundred hours, so. And I know that some people like the grind of Fishing Planet, but to a lot of people that I've talked to, that's one of the biggest things that turns them off of the game. So I feel like if EW can make a game that's got good progression, doesn't give you anything too early, but also doesn't make you want to stop, then I think it could be a pretty big hit, because they've got a really good progression system in Call of the Wild when it comes to leveling. I feel like it's very balanced. It doesn't limit you too heavily early on. You're still able to do most of the stuff in the game. Like, you're still able to hunt all the species and fish everywhere. You're just limited on how effectively you can do it based off of what perks you have and what you've purchased in the store. So I feel like if Expansive Worlds did do it, they could do a pretty good job. I just really hope that they do a good job on it and put some things into the game that a lot of people haven't done. I feel like the open world thing would be a very good addition to it, and I feel like a large variety of fish species that other games don't have would also be something that could pull a lot of people in. And if you were able to bowfish or spearfish, that could also be a pretty good thing for them to try and implement into the game to attract players. Along with ocean fishing and fly fishing, I feel like those would also be very good additions to the game, because currently there's not too many games that do the ocean fishing or the fly fishing, and the ones that do, they don't do it super great. So I feel like that's something they could really think about putting into it if they do develop this fishing game. I feel like I've kind of repeated a few things a couple times during this little like opinion section on this fishing game that they could potentially be developing, but I hope this all makes sense to you guys. But I think that's probably going to be it for now, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want me to make a follow-up video on the whole fishing game thing, then let me know down in the comments below. If you liked the video, be sure to hit that like button, and I will see you all next time. If you are new here and you are liking what you see, consider subscribing to the channel and turning notifications on. Also, if you want to help the channel grow, be sure to like the video because this alone can help the video and my channel do better. But that's going to be it for me. Peace, my dudes. I hope you all have a fantastic day.